coming to you from balmy Chicago. Hope you're all having a good week so far. Hope you had a good weekend. Let's get started. All right, so this week we're looking at 1850 to 1900 and talking about the beginnings of modernism. Some of the questions to consider this week. What kinds of social, technological, cultural, and historical changes brought about a new modern art for a new modern age in Europe? How did new trade and exchange with Japan contribute to this development of modern art in Europe and America? And finally, what is the role of cultural patrimony and cultural appropriation? Some of the terms to know and use include realism, salon des refusés, impressionism, en plein air, post-impressionism, pointillism, impasto, and japonisme. All right, so what exactly is modern art and what brought about the birth of modern art? First, it's an increased emphasis on secularism. In other words, non-religious subject matter. It's also the rise in industrialization, especially in Europe. It's a focus on the plight of the working class. The modernization of transportation, of light, heat, all of the above, as well as the invention of photography. All in all, it's a break with the official art of the time, as artists look to create a modern art for a modern age. But if you're picturing Pablo Picasso or some other kind of abstract artist, we're not quite there yet. Modern art starts with painting that is totally regular and plain looking, and that's the whole idea. This is a painting by Gustave Courbet. A French artist who was incredibly political, and so was his art. After the French revolutions of 1830 and 1848, in which everyday working class and poor people rose up to overthrow the monarch, Courbet was galvanized. He dedicated his art to depicting modern life, which to him meant it was drawn from the everyday lives of the working class and based on direct observation of the modern world. He painted these subjects, like this burial of an everyday person in the town of Ornans, in a matter-of-fact way. Nothing would be idealized, nothing would be from the imagination or from mythology or from the Bible. He would in fact say, "I've never seen an angel. Show me an angel and I'll paint one." In other words, he cares only about the observable world. But what makes this so revolutionary and modern is the fact that he painted such a regular, boring scene on such a monumental scale. Look at the size of this painting. It's 10 feet by 21 feet. Nobody had ever painted a scene like this on such a large canvas. This size had been reserved for only history paintings showing battle scenes or portraits of kings and queens, not the burial of a nobody out in the countryside. But even paintings of war were treated in this kind of matter-of-fact, boring and regular way. For example, check out this painting made by Winslow Homer, who was an artist correspondent during the Civil War. This painting represents an actual scene from the war in which a Union officer, Brigadier General Francis Channing Barlow, captured several Confederate soldiers. So it's painted based on real events, but it's not depicted in an exciting or heroic way. Instead, we just see a group of men standing around chatting. Nobody rearing up on a horse, nobody leading a troop of soldiers into battle, and definitely no bloodshed to be seen. Some realist artists were influenced by the new invention of photography, which tended to depict scenes in an objective and a matter-of-fact way. In fact, this was the first time that a major war had been documented by photographs, and even the photographs show the bloody aftermath of war. This is a photograph of the rotting dead awaiting burial after the Battle of Gettysburg, and is perhaps the best-known Civil War landscape. Very different from the way that neoclassical artists showed war. Realist artists leave out the kind of heroic undertones and sense of civic duty found in neoclassical art. They also don't make reference to the ancient past, but instead make reference to the present. Unlike romantic artists, they don't show anyone as a martyr figure. They don't heighten any emotion either. Instead, everything is in a very deadpan, matter-of-fact kind of style. All this was in contrast to the official, sanctioned art of the time, called academic art because it was made in the official art academies. This was the kind of style and subject matter that was taught in the art academies of France. Mythological subject matter, lighthearted and traditional style, based on classical training. It's everything Courbet thought was wrong with art. As he wrote, "It is high time that someone have the courage to be an honest man and say that the Academy is a harmful, all-consuming institution." This is another example of modern art and the realist style. Here we're looking at a painting by Edward Manet called Déjeuner sur l'herbe, or Luncheon on the Grass. When his painting was rejected by the official academy for being too offensive, Manet decided to create a Salon des Refusés. In other words, an exhibition of rejects, an exhibition of works rejected by the jury of the official Paris Salon. But why did the Academy have such a problem with this painting? What was so offensive about it? Manet would say, well, it's an outdoor picnic scene, just like the one by Renaissance master Titian on the right. But critics would say it looked hastily painted. It appears to be unfinished. There's also a lack of clearly defined three-dimensional space. Manet would say, what's so shocking about nudity? Look, my painting is just like Raphael's and his isn't shocking. But critics would say that Manet's nudity is shocking because he introduced it in a depiction of daily life rather than a classical or mythological scene where nudity would be acceptable. Manet would say, but what about Delacroix? He painted a woman nude from the waist up. No classical references there. Why is mine so shocking? But critics would say that Delacroix's liberty figure is allegorical. She symbolizes liberty, but is not a real woman, whereas Manet's nude woman was based on a real woman named Victorine Meurent, a bohemian who is known to hang out with and model for artists in Paris. So clearly, although at first glance Manet's painting seems pretty traditional, we can see that he's breaking all sorts of unwritten rules. Shocking was exactly the word used to describe Edward Manet's other painting, Olympia, when it was first unveiled in Paris in 1865. What they found so shocking about this artwork is the fact that not only is she nude, not only does she look defiantly right at the viewer, but also the manner in which she was painted, what many people read as an almost childish or unskilled fashion. Even though it was included in the official Paris Salon, it was mocked relentlessly. The shocking nature of the painting had something to do with the symbolism as well. Not only is this woman nude and making direct eye contact with us in a confident gaze, it's implied that she's a prostitute. Here she is in a luxurious bed, wearing heels and a flower in her hair, as her maid brings her a bouquet of flowers from an assumed suitor. So, who is Olympia and who is she looking at? But also, look who's at the foot of her bed, a black cat arching its back. In Renaissance painter Titian's painting, we see a little dog sleeping soundly. Why is all this noteworthy? Well, think about the symbolism. A dog represents faithfulness, loyalty, man's best friend. A common name for dogs is Fido, which is short for fidelity. On the other hand, when we think of a stray cat, we think of someone who's independent, scrappy. Also, the cat is on high alert here, as if she might attack or run. Also, the word for a female cat in French has the same double meaning in English, a reference to female genitalia. In comparison to Ingres' Odalisque, Manet's Olympia is a real French woman. She's not an imagined exotic beauty. She's again modeled after Victorine Meurent. She's turned towards us rather than away, and she has a realistic body rather than an idealized body. So we talked about Olympia and how she's presented to the viewer, but we haven't talked at all about the other woman in this painting. Who is she, and how is she presented to the viewer?
At a recent New York exhibition, based on Denise Morel's doctoral dissertation, she assembled artwork from Manet to Matisse to African-American artists like Romare Bearden and Laura Wheeler Waring to illustrate the role of Black models in modern art, starting with the Black maid from Olympia.
So what is Manet intending to say? Even though our historians are not saying very much, right. I believe he intended for us to pay attention. And this material is not hidden. Just like the model, she's in plain view, but she's made invisible by the lack of historical interest.
But in Manet's own notebook, Morel found the model's name, Laure, whom he described as a très belle négresse, a very beautiful Black woman.
What Manet does is bring this figure into the present moment and say that French society is an interracial society, that people of color are part of modern France.
This is what we refer to as revisionist art history, a revision of what has been written. Let's continue rewriting the history of art to refocus on the people who have been ignored or dismissed.